Hello and welcome. This is the Bookworm and I'm Manisha Choudhury. Now, in case you don't remember, we are in the middle of reviewing and discussing the epic Clifton Chronicles by Jeffrey Archer. And so far we have talked about two books, the first two. I'll be linking the videos somewhere above. So in case you haven't seen those videos, please go back and watch them because they will give you a thorough understanding of what the first two books were about. So today we'll be jumping right into the third one. Also a little disclaimer, in the previous two videos I have been talking about Jeffrey Archer as an author, so I won't be repeating that in this one because things tend to get unnecessarily long, so we'll keep it short. This one, The Best Kept Secret, is the third book of the Clifton Chronicles series. And this one picks up right where the previous one left off, right? So if you have read the last book, you remember that the last book, The Sins of the Father, which is the second book, it left off right at the moment where the verdict was to be announced whether Harry Clifton or Giles Barrington would be inheriting the family title of the Barringtons. And this book picks it up right there. So a little disclaimer, the verdict is out within the first few pages of the book. Now, if you have been following the story, you would wonder but that seemed to be the primary plot of the story, right? Like, who amongst Harry or Giles would be inheriting the family title? And once that issue is resolved within the first few pages of the book, what is written in this thick book, right? Like, what is left to be explained? But I think that is where Jeffrey Archer makes his point as an amazing storyteller, because this book acts as a stepping stone into the later part of the story. So if you remember the first book, Only Time Will Tell, it was a means to set the stage for the second book. Like, the characters were introduced, their backstories were told, and the stage was set for a finale in the second book. The third book acts like that. It introduces a host of new characters who take the story of the Cliftons and the Barringtons forward, right? The new generation of Cliftons and Barringtons march onto the stage, which is Sebastian Clifton, who is Emma and Harry's son, and also the other little girl called Jessica, whose exact identity I won't be revealing right here because then why would you read the book? So go ahead and read it. So there is a new generation, there is a new host of characters that get introduced in this book, and this one acts as a way of letting the audience know that the story is far from over, right? There are more things to come, there are more adventures to be explored. It begins like after the end of the World War, after the end of the Second World War, somewhere in the late 1940s, and goes on to like 1957-58. So it tracks the 1950s, which is very curious because it also tracks Sebastian as a character, right? Also, a little spoiler, Harry Clifton is not the protagonist in this book, though he has very important parts to play in the plot, but he is not. It is Sebastian who is at the center of attention, and this book actually follows his journey from a shy, hyperactive boy to quite a colorful character. It follows in his school days, though not in a very detailed manner, but you get the overview, and it ends right before he goes to college in Cambridge. So you see his entire adolescence, which plays out in the 50s, which as I suggested is very interesting given the fact that 50s were a time when things started loosening up socially, right? Like right after the Second World War, the societal norms were loosening up, nightclubs were making it big, it was becoming more and more common, and you gradually see the shift towards more of a hippie and more of a free-flowing culture that signified the 60s. So you see the preparation of the 60s right in the 50s throughout this book, which I found really, really interesting. And apart from that, just as Jeffrey Archer's other books, this one is beautifully written. It will get you hooked. It's funny, it's fast-paced. It took me around a day and a half to get over with this one. So, and what I think about this book in particular is the fact that it may not have very big revelations in terms of the plot, but the characters develop magnificently through this book. It's almost like, say, Game of Thrones. Like, all of the books are not red weddings. There are certain books that you can mark as the red wedding, which will have everyone talking, but the other episodes are more of people and armies marching through Westeros, which might seem a little bit boring, but then they do help you get into the context of the character. So this book is like one of those episodes. It's fun to read. Of course, it's in no way boring. It's very fun to read. So that being said, I think I have covered most of the things that I want to talk about this book. I would highly recommend you to pick up this series. It's a bestseller, so it's available everywhere, online, offline, in a PDF format. It's really out there, and I totally recommend you to pick it up. If you're a seasoned reader, if you want to get into reading, it doesn't matter. Everyone should read this series, because I haven't really met anyone who has anything bad to say about it. Also, another thing that I forgot to mention, like in every other Jeffrey Archer book in this series, this book also covers a new place. This time it's Buenos Aires. So yeah, it's quite an international adventure, and this book has an entire episode set in Argentina. So I think you should be finding that interesting. And yeah, that's about it. The language is funny, it's lucid, it's fast paced, and I would highly recommend you to read it. If you're a slow reader, it would take you around 2 to 3 weeks to get over with the entire series. If you're a marathon reader like me, it should take you around 1.5 weeks to get over with it. I highly recommend it, and this book honestly is just a stepping stone for the next and bigger and better adventures of Sebastian Clifton. So stay tuned. Also, this is a new channel, so I would be very happy if you like the video and subscribe to it. Also, if you like what you see, please share it with your friends and other readers and other people who are opinionated and passionate about books. And make sure you leave a comment if you like what you see, or if you have any other books that you would want me to read and review, or if you have any other genres where you want recommendations. I would be very happy to oblige. Thanks for watching.